Hey everybody, it's Don here. We had a different sort of episode this time. We sat down and I talked with Sam a little bit about his background and learned some stuff I never knew about him. We've been friends now for just about 5 years, and I learned so much about his background in teaching and wrestling and things that drive him creatively. And I'm so glad that I have an opportunity to share a little bit more of Sam's background with you. So sit back and welcome to the Clubhouse, everyone. All right, we got something special cooking for this episode.
Do we have a very special guest today?
I think we do. You probably know him. You might have heard him at least 10 times.
Huh.
It's you, my friend.
Me?
Yeah, you're our special guest for today.
I am freaking honored, dude.
Well, I'm glad we could have you.
You know, it's cool, too, because, I mean, I've known you for years, but, you never really get to sit down and, we're always talking about what's going on with the day, which we just did for a half hour before this started.
Yeah.
But, diving in deep, finding out how one came to be. I always love doing that with a good friend. So, of course, I'm going to have to find out about you in a future episode. But this one, you want to know about little old me?
I do. I wanna dig deep into the recesses of the Samiverse, and really kind of like you think creatively in just about everything that I've known you to do.
Is that the impression I give?
Yeah, I mean, like every time I bring up an idea or you have an idea, it's just like, hey, what if we try this? What if we do this? And every time like we come up with something like the big draw, you're like, I'm in. Let's do this. And like you've had at least 2 very successful podcasts, as far as I know, maybe more. You've the way that you work with your campers at Camp Tuscaloosa, the way that you work with your students, it always seems to come from a place of creativity. And the professional wrestling that you've done over your life comes from a place of creativity. Like, so I want to like find out more about how all of this kind of started. Now, you're originally from Florida?
No.
Where are you from originally?
Yeah, so you don't even know where I was born.
I don't even know nothing about nothing.
So let me fill you in, brother, because up until the time I was bar mitzvahed, I was 13 years old, ladies and gentlemen, when I became a man.
I've never been to one.
You've never been to a bar mitzvah?
No,
dude, you would have loved mine.
I have so many friends who are Jewish, and I've always met them after.
Yeah, you would have loved mine. We had this Marvel superhero theme and, martial arts and just dancing. It was a good time. My parents, they were rich, and they spared no expense. So, but going back to the question, I'm actually a Midwesterner.
What?
Yeah. I'm born and raised in good old St. Louis, Missouri. Nelly, all that good stuff.
I like St. Louis.
Have you been?
I have. Not like to the city proper, but I went to this. I've only been there once, so I can't say like I'm super familiar with it. But there was this YMCA camp just outside of St. Louis that I went to, like a 3-day retreat to. It was lots of music and horseback riding and zip lines and stuff. But driving through that area, it seemed like a cool place to, like, there were great places to see and also some not so great places to see. But I mean, like, it's like that outside of any city, really, right?
Sure, yeah.
So what was life like in St. Louis?
You know, I don't know how it is nowadays, and I might romanticize how it was, given that it was a long time ago. But man, first of all, there were no cell phones. So my friends and I, we would be outside. We'd be exploring the woods. We could do an entire podcast on the stuff we found in the woods, for good or bad, and the trouble we made.
Yeah.
And St. Louis, Missouri, the Midwest pretty much in general, has a much more down-to-earth, friendly atmosphere than what I've lived around since I left St. Louis, Missouri. So it was a great place for my for the start of season 1 for me, because gosh, I feel like that's a huge part of who I am. Before anything, before I became an entertainer or a teacher or a wrestler, you know, I was just having fun with the kids in the neighborhood, getting into trouble. I mean, you know, I was a pain in the butt back then. Like all the older kids in my neighborhood, oh man, did they give me a hard time. I'll never forget the day. Did I ever tell you about the paintball?
No.
Dude, so I was either really loved or really hated. I was loved by the kids my age and younger. We were all just such a great posse. But their older brothers and the other older kids in the neighborhood, boy, was I a target. And I'll never forget the moment. In fact, I messaged this guy. Hold on. So his name is Jonah. And Jonah was the older brother of my friend. And boy, did Jonah beat the crap out of me many times. Drag me downstairs, threw toys at my face. Oh, all these memories with Jonah. And so one day, I'm outside on my bike, my brand new bike, just riding up and down the hills of St. Louis, because we had some good hills in my neighborhood. And sure enough, Jonah walks outside. He's looking at me, and I'm thinking, oh, boy, what's going to happen now? And he's like, Sam, what a cool bike. And I'm blown away that he's being nice to me. Oh, thanks, man. He's like, how good are you? I'm pretty good at riding this thing. Can you ride with no hands? I was like, I don't know. I think I can do it with one hand. Let me see. And dude, I put one hand in the air. I'm speeding down this hill. And then I hear, ta, 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 and I'm covered in paint and swerving, trying not to hit the ground.
Jeez.
Oh my God, dude. It was so humiliating. Going home, I didn't even say anything to him. I just rode home because I didn't even know what happened at first. I was like, what the hell just hit me? I didn't even see him because I was, paying attention to my bike. And when I got home and saw the welts and the paint, I was like, Jonah was not being nice. Not at all.
That's harsh.
Oh, dude, I would hear rumors like, oh, when you're out trick-or-treating, be careful. They're all saying they're going to steal the Seitles kids' candy. But I messaged him. I was on another podcast show recently where they said, hey, think about someone who you want to forgive or you're holding on to something. I was like, God, I'll never forget Jonah and the way he beat the crap out of me as a kid. And, I could kick his ass now if I wanted to. But, the stupid thoughts that come into your mind. And but I messaged Jonah, who's, I believe, a doctor now, doing well for himself.
Of course he is.
And, yeah, freaking super successful. And he wrote back to me saying how he barely, I guess it wasn't as important as in his life story as it was mine, because he said, man, I really don't remember a lot of the things you're telling me, but it's not that I don't believe you. I totally believe you, and from the bottom of my heart, I apologize. And man, in my head, I'm getting ready for old Jonah. I'm like 39 years old, 40 years old at the time, and I'm like, gosh, Jonah's gonna give me a hard time, like how you always see your parents as the
sure.
But he was nice as can be, and we put an end to that chapter.
Nice.
But St. Louis, I was a terrible student. We had Fs back then. I don't know if they still do Fs, but I got a whole lot of Fs until in 4th grade I had this tough African American teacher named Mrs. Buchanan, who I'm still in touch with to this day. Holy cow, she was tough. I'll never forget. I say some of her lines now because if I was ever in trouble and I'd make an excuse, she'd look at me and go, tough toenails. That was her thing, tough toenails. I don't know. But even though she gave me a really hard time, suddenly I got a report card and it had like 2 A's and the rest were B's. And dude, I had barely had a B before her. And I ended up growing so close with her that she moved up to fifth grade to teach fifth grade after my fourth grade class. And I begged the school to put me back in Mrs. Buchanan's class, and I got her for 2 years.
Wow.
And that was the beginning of me not doing so terrible in school. I was able to actually pay attention and care because of her. But I was 12, 13, and I'll never forget because I had my best friends in the neighborhood there my whole life. My best friend Eric, I love him to this day. I mean, we were Beavis and Butthead. And yeah, one day my parents, I'll never forget them coming into the room and saying, "Sam, we're moving to Florida." And it was like, that can't be. Like, this is my life.
So what prompted them to move to Florida?
Well, my dad says it was because of his allergies or something in St. Louis, and that it had to do with his health. I never knew when my dad was being serious or he was being a hypochondriac or making excuse, because he's done all those things, which made it hard on the last one because he was a lot sicker than I really gave him credit for. And I found out the hard way, like, oh my God, no, this is the real thing. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him when he wasn't on antibiotics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Great dude. I don't want to paint a bad picture of my dad. I miss him to death. He was a great dad, but he had that thing where he was kind of a hypochondriac. So I'll take him for his word that it was for allergies.
Yeah.
And dude, when you move from St. Louis, Missouri to Boca Raton, Florida, you have your world turned upside down. I'll never forget the first play date we had. We just called it, "Can you come over?" But this girl named Rebecca, real attitude with Rebecca. She came over and she taught my sister something called booty dancing. Dude. Oh my God. I'm coming from St. Louis where everyone is polite and kind of mild, I guess, to put it, for lack of a better word. And Rebecca's coming into my house and putting on some beats and booty dancing. And in my mind at the time, I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen, dude. I was like, what is this? She's so hot. What's going on? But yeah, Boca Raton ended up not being a great place for a teenager to grow up.
Yeah.
A lot of very rich kids, a lot of pilled out parents, a lot of boredom and looking for trouble. And I had made friends with this kid named Harrison, who he's been in and out of prison lately, and he was a wild cat and got me into all kinds of trouble. That was most of my time in Florida, was getting into trouble with Harrison until finally I had enough, because we got pulled over one day, and the police, it was right before I went off to college, and they saw these things on Harrison that he shouldn't have been holding. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail because of Harrison. And the cop took me aside and he said, "Sam, you've got a good future. I'm going to let you go, but if I see you with this kid again, I'm taking you in." And that's all I had to hear. I was like, that's it. Never hung out with Harrison again, and kind of grew up after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. My time in Boca Raton was not good, though. My sister and I often talk about how crazy our lives were there.
So you were there, right? How long were your parents there after you started college?
So I was there from the age of 13 when I moved after my bar mitzvah. And then I went to college when I was 18, came back to live with them for a year or two after college. And, then I followed a girlfriend to New York City, and they moved to Israel. And I said, good riddance to Florida forever.
Yeah.
Gosh, I do not have good memories of that place. It was no place. I do wonder how that experience turned me into who I am today. Maybe we can figure that out on this episode.
The Boca experience?
Yeah.
So you're talking about how it's like it was kind of a culture shock when you moved down there.
Huge culture shock.
So, man. What were there sort of how did you adapt to that new environment, or did you find that you had to adapt to that, or were you able to sort of stay the same same kid from Missouri in this new playground?
Um, so I've never had problems making friends. I've always been pretty social, and I made friends quickly. But like I said, with that kid Harrison, I always was into people who were fun. Like, and Harrison was fun.
Yeah.
Like, he definitely was in for some trouble. The first time he came over, I was like, "Yeah, I'm really into wrestling." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll kick your ass." I beat the tar out of him. But as much as I still thought he was this fascinating kid, and a life I'd never been opened up to a life like his before. He didn't have a father. He was adopted. His mom was not a good mom. She was never there. So Harrison just did whatever. He was known everywhere, like everyone, security guards, residents, cops, everyone knew frickin' Harrison. And it's not, I guess I didn't adapt. I guess I just changed. I guess I just became this kid who also wants to be part of the action and get into trouble. And I don't know what I could say on this podcast that's going to come back and bite me in the butt, because boy, did we get in trouble. But, I mean, we were teenagers, and no shortage of stories from that period of time. But, boy, was it a culture change from St. Louis. Boy, when I came back to St. Louis to visit my friends, I had stories to tell them. In fact, one of my friends, Sam, another Sam, after I met him the first time coming back, he never spoke to me again, and I have to feel like I scared him with who I had become. This is kind of a bummer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but my best friend Eric, we never lost touch.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
great.
Yeah.
So where'd you go to college, and like what did you major there? Like what were you pursuing when you first started in college?
The WWE Heavyweight Championship, brother. My parents told me, because I did have ups and downs with grades after Mrs. Buchanan. But my parents finally told me, after I was getting into too much trouble, they said, "Sam, we're going to support you with the wrestling thing. We will take you to a wrestling school, but you got to get your butt in gear. You got to get into college." So I started doing really well in school. I ended up going to University of Tampa because it was very close to Steve Kern's Pro Wrestling School of the Hard Knocks, which is it was the best wrestling school around.
So where you chose to go to school was direct. I'm too far away from the mic. Where you were going from
Amateur.
I'm still new. Where you went to college was directly influenced by your desire to be a professional wrestler?
Brother, I almost moved close to you because the Monster Factory is here. I almost went to Temple University to go to wrestling school here. But I went to Steve Kern, who, if you're familiar at all with wrestling from the 90s, he was one of the Doink the Clowns. He was Skinner. He played a lot of characters, and he's best friends with Hulk Hogan and Macho Man, all those guys. And when I met him, he was a lot less scary than the other wrestling trainers I had met, and seemed like the right fit. It was a drive from home, so I was like, this is the place. And as soon as I went to University of Tampa, just 2 weeks later, I started pro wrestling school.
Wow.
Majored in communications, though.
Okay.
Thought maybe I'd do something with radio, or I don't know.
How's that working out?
It's fantastic, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen. This is the pinnacle of it right here. Air conditioning. A little air conditioning. Sorry, fans. We will sweat for all of you. We will turn that off. We'll have none of that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to edit this out.
Okay.
Or not. We'll see. So communications, like, were you specifically into radio, or did you want to get into like film?
Well, I was fascinated also by Hunter S. Thompson at the time, so I was taking some journalism classes. I loved going back to what this is about is I loved being creative. So some of the best times I had in college as far as academics go were writing a screenplay for a movie, full 90 page, 90-minute movie. I wish I could find it because I had a blast doing that. I took with old film cameras. I filmed a silent movie, did the whole cut and splicing thing.
Did you guys have Bolexes, or did you have a Bolex?
Is that the big thing with the film that goes around? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what we use. It's been a long time. But I did that. And anything where I got to create was very fun to me. I didn't really know if I was going to make a profession out of it, but I knew I was having a good time with it. And I was pretty decent at putting entertaining things together. But what I didn't tell you is when I was a senior in high school, I'd gotten a job doing after-school latchkey. Is that what it's called? Latchkey? After-school program? Yeah. And I remind you, I was kind of a pain in the butt. So I kind of did whatever I wanted on that job, took the kids anywhere on campus, made messes that maybe we didn't clean up so well. And I started to kind of make my own schedule too. And so one day I take the kids into a classroom because it's Florida and it's super hot. I'm like, let's just watch a movie today, guys. We've been outside every single day. And my boss comes in. She says, Sam, you got to take these kids back outside. And I said, I'm not going to do that. Nobody wants to be outside. Everyone's hot. It's okay if we watch this movie. She said, Sam, if you don't take them outside, you can leave. I was like, all right, I'm sorry, guys. I'm out of here. And so I left. Sure enough, 2 days later, I go into high school, my school, and the principal comes up to me and he says, hey, Sam, someone's on the phone for you. And they're like, it's from Whispering Pines Elementary. I said, I'm not talking with them. They fired me. I'm done with them. And so my boss told the principal, she relayed the message to him to relay to me, saying that all the parents of the students are complaining. They're saying they're going to drop their kids out of latchkey program if they don't hire me back. And they're going to give me a raise, which is something I was not expecting. I was like, all right, well, okay, I'll go back. I didn't think too much of it at the time. I thought it was kind of cool, and I knew the kids liked me. But man, Don, when I walked back onto the field and I was greeted by a sea of children, Mr. Sam, running up to me, hug, he's back. And I was like, let's go play soccer or whatever. I can't remember what we did afterwards, but I remember that moment when they all ran up to me. And it was definitely in that very moment where I thought to myself, man, maybe this could be my career. Maybe I'll work with kids or something. And so even though I was in communications, always in the back of my mind was, maybe I could be a teacher. I've always liked making a positive impact on people's lives. It's a pretty big passion of mine. And I was finding, as I was turning 20, 21, 22, that's a lot harder for me to make that impact on adults' lives. No one wants to listen to me. But kids kind of thought I was cool. And I loved working with them. I was still kind of a kid at heart. And sure enough, schools were begging me to work for them. I applied. I've always applied to a million places and, set out as many fishing hooks as I can. And boy, they were fighting over me. And I went to one job interview after another, and they were all calling me. But finally, one of them called me, Summit Cuesta Montessori. And they said, Sam, we don't want to wait any longer. This is like 2 minutes after I left. We want to make you an offer, and we really want you as part of the team. And I spent the next probably the most 4 impactful years of my life. Because even though I wasn't a strong teacher by any means, like I didn't have my teacher voice, I barely knew the subjects because I didn't pay attention in school, so I had to teach myself everything. But man, the kids just loved me, and the math teacher came up to me from the middle school and said that she's never seen improvements with the kids in math Like I had given them, like bringing them from third grade levels up to sixth grade levels. And I don't know how I did it. I think just I really cared and I connected and I took the time with every kid. Boy, I can't tell you how many times the principal came into my classroom saying, "Sam, you have to be quiet." Like I think the whole school was annoyed by me, but the students really loved me. I'm still in touch with a lot of some of them. Man, have freaking kids now.
Yeah.
And have their own professions and stuff, which is wild. But those 4 years, man, and by the time the fourth year came around, I did start having my teacher voice, and I was able to control a classroom. It's funny now because I tell my teachers and my counselors this, and they can't believe it because I have a really good teacher voice now, and I've got the respect of all the kids. So they find it hard to believe I was such a softie back then who kids would, I had a kid named Jade who would fart into his hand and throw it in my face. Every time the kids got a right answer in my class, they'd all have their signature scream, and it was just a madhouse. But I think because I loved it so much, they loved the class and made history fun. I found out how cool history was because I thought it was boring my whole childhood. Suddenly I have to teach ancient history, and I'm like, oh my God, this Mesopotamia stuff is kind of badass.
Yeah, history is pretty cool.
It's freaking awesome.
Is that like your favorite subject to teach?
History. So I love teaching physical education, getting kids out of their comfort zone, not comfort zone, getting them to see what they're capable of and getting them motivated, like kids who had never done a push-up. By the end of the school year, they're doing a ton and working out at home. Or maybe they're afraid to play, especially the girls who, I don't know, maybe they'd been picked on or missed a goal. I don't know what happened, but none of them wanted to play sports, and now they all loved it. And I love doing that.
Yeah.
But history is so freaking awesome, dude. Especially the parts that I'm most passionate about, like being a dude who's into wrestling and into ninja movies and all that. You can imagine the stuff that I love the most, man. Teaching about the Spartans and teaching about the Colosseum and all that jazz. And of course the mummification stuff and hitting all the basics, the history 101 kind of stuff. We're a democracy. In fact, this tattoo, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's kind of it's my first tattoo, and it's a mix-up of all the things from those first 4 years. So we got a big Socrates face here. Then we got the pyramid, and inside of the pyramid has the letters PEMDAS for please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We've got Spartans versus gladiators playing dodgeball with each other. There's a whistle in Socrates' mouth because he's reffing the game. There's a lot going on here, but this is...
I've never noticed that before.
Yeah, there's a lot going on with this
so
tattoo. And those were just... I wonder, like, did I never thought about this before, but... I know St. Louis had such an impact on me in Florida and going to college, but man, I don't think anything shaped me quite as much as those 4 years at Summit Cuesta Montessori, knowing that the kids did improve their grade levels and I could teach the way I wanted. They gave me this freedom if I could come in and make games out of really boring things, or at least, typically kids would find boring, adding and subtracting decimals and stuff like that. Well, what if we turn it into some kind of race car game where you get to do this with a race car afterwards, and if you land this, you get to move on to the next problem, or stuff like that, where kids would love coming to math class. And little did I know until the end of the year assessment tests came out that holy crap, like, not only did I do a good job, like I did the best job that school had really ever seen in that grade. I had one student, I do want to talk about him. His name's Brent. I'm still in touch with Brent. And he has Asperger's. I never worked with someone who has... I never worked with anyone before, but here's Brent with Asperger's, and apparently he was on a second grade math level.
Okay.
And... He was different from everybody, sweet as can be. Everyone respected him because of how nice he was. He was the oldest kid in class too, but no one related to him. No one could really have a conversation with Brent. So his mom hired me to give him private tutoring and I kind of got inside of Brent's head with some questions. First, I asked him, like, as I'm teaching you this, Brent, you seem like you're getting it. Like, why are you so far behind? Like, why are you not getting this in class? And it turns out Brent, for whatever reason, would never want to look up during a lesson because he thought kids were flicking him off. Strangest thing. I was like, Brent, you think people are flicking you off? He's like, yeah, I know they are. And so we made a little pact that if I said his name in class, he would look up and take a look around. And I think I offered him, I said, hey, if you find one person flicking you off, like, we'll end this and I'll give you like something from the prize box, But of course, like, little by little, he's looking up, looking around. No one's cursing or no one's flicking him off. And out of nowhere, eventually one day, he's raising his hand to answer a question. And oh man, I don't want to get emotional, man, but I haven't thought about that in a while. And he was just different, dude. He could listen to it. He had these abilities. You hear about these abilities like from the movie, like Rain Man and stuff like that. He had these abilities where, like, he could listen to a song once and you play a second time and he had every single word memorized.
Wow.
We did karaoke once and, like, I wanted to do this one song and he didn't know it. So I was like, I played it for him once. We went up, did karaoke, and he did the whole freaking song.
That's
like
awesome.
He'd been singing it his whole life. It was music that he loved and helicopters. And he had this ability, dude. We would be sitting in the tutoring center like you and I are just sitting here now, and all of a sudden he'd look up and he'd point, he'd be like, a helicopter's on its way. And it would take 20 to 30 seconds where finally I heard the
yeah.
like, oh my God, you weren't lying. I thought it was in your head, dude. And those were his two things. And now I think I don't talk to him often, but I keep up with his Facebook a little bit, and I think he's married and he's got a job, and he looks happy, dude.
That's awesome.
That he went from a second grade math level to a sixth one by the end of the school year.
That's incredible, man.
It was a good year.
Yeah, you gotta feel proud about that.
Yeah. Sometimes you forget to look back and be proud of what you've done, and I do think there's something to be said about not dwelling on the past and living for the present. But it is nice to go back and think about ways I guess I have made the impact that I want to make. I'm always focusing on what's the next thing I'm going to do, but it's really important, I guess, to look back and say, like, okay, I did do that.
Yeah.
And that means something.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of your journey. It's part of who you are today. Like, looking back at that, is, I think, in some ways healthy as long as you're not living there.
That's a really good point, man. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people who live in the past, and
yeah,
I definitely don't do that. And
you sure don't.
No. So, I hardly even think about it ever. But when I do, I guess it's nice I can smile about it.
For sure.
Be pretty proud.
For sure.
Maybe even cry.
Well,
I won't do that.
Save that for a different podcast.
Yeah.
So you've gone through these 4 years at this Montessori school, and through teaching and stuff, have you always been, I guess, a proponent of the Montessori method, or have you explored anything else like choice theory and any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, I love that question. No, I see. In fact, I get a lot. I don't know if disgusted's the right word, but I definitely disagree with a lot of these teaching methods that are so strict to the philosophy. So I do love parts of Montessori. More than anything, I think the thing that makes most sense with Montessori are two things. One is the very obvious thing of the hands-on learning and not just writing on a piece of paper. I love that. That makes total sense to me. But more than anything that I got from Montessori is to follow the child, which is not what I had growing up. I feel like they were way beyond what I had paid attention. I didn't pay attention in first grade, so I didn't get those things. So when we were on to fourth grade math, I was so far behind and there was no one there to catch me up. So I just kind of drifted away. I love the fact that I can teach to someone's level. I love the fact that if Jimmy is into trucks, we're not going to stick to the curriculum. We can say, well, let's learn about trucks, and we can dive deep into that. I love that. Where I stray is I've also been in a lot of Montessori classrooms where it's kind of strange. They kind of treat Maria Montessori as she was like the second coming kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've seen teachers actually sing to pictures of her and kind of pray. And just, you know, and I've seen a lot of very unsuccessful Montessori teachers who are so strict to the philosophy that it is almost a hindrance to their class because Maria says to roll the mats like this, and Maria says to put the material away like this. And in my head, I'm just like, God, I'm a pretty sloppy dude. I'm good with, I like organization as much as the next person, but the main thing I want to do here is teach and motivate and inspire and do that by any use a wide variety of skills, not just what's in the Montessori handbook, but improvise, which is something I've learned how to do with wrestling and teaching and podcasting and everything in my life. Is sometimes you just have to feel the moment and do what you think is right. And I think the student will feel that because they'll feel you being real with them and you being 100% in, not just on some philosophy that you have to follow, but on the philosophy of just doing what's best in your opinion for the kids. So I'm not bashing Montessori method. If you go and you love Montessori, I love Montessori. But in my own philosophy of teaching, I take what I love from Montessori. I take what I hated when I went to school or when I've seen other teachers teach in ineffective ways, and I throw those things out the door, and I just evolve, you know, and I make my classroom the best it could possibly be with the wisdom I've gained over the years.
Now I don't want to like bounce around too much, but it seemed like the wrestling and the like was running parallel to some of these.
Oh, it's all been
experiences.
parallel.
So let's dig in there a little bit. Like what was your first match like?
Oh man, going right to the first match. Well, let me just cliff notes before that. Obsessed with pro wrestling since watching my first match.
What was the first match you watched?
Oh man, I'm surprised I haven't told you. Maybe I have. It was a tag team called the Bushwhackers.
Of course, the Bushwhackers.
If you guys don't know, Bushwhackers were not the biggest guys. They were the goofiest, and they did the special march. Yeah, you know the march, arms flailing, going to the ring. They'd lick each other's heads and then lick a fan's head. And I was picked on at the time, just like anyone else. And so Bushwhackers come out and they're wrestling these two really big dudes in black singlets. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, these guys are going to get destroyed. But sure enough, they hit them with the finishing move, the battering ram, and pinned them for the 1-2-3. And my new heroes just won a match. And I was, obsessed for many years. And if you found me in my room between that moment and when I was 18, even when I was 17, 18, I had my action figures, dude. And I had a suitcase full of them. And each figure had a name. Each figure had a finisher. Each figure had a storyline. And I'm talking about an ongoing storyline for years. I think a lot of my creativity and my storytelling in the ring comes from all those hours I spent with those action figures, creating different matches with them. I have a niece right now who's 13. Shout out Leah. And Leah has been playing with dolls to this day, doing like fashion design stuff. She's really into fashion. And just this week, my sister Rochelle said to her, "I'm not buying you any more Barbies. You need to like grow up a little." I said, "Hey, Rochelle, do you remember I played with my figures till I was 18? Why don't you let her do this? And then when she becomes a fashion designer, then she'll naturally go away from the figures." Anyways, I digress. I go to wrestling school. I'm scared as crap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing my heroes just all of a sudden show up here and there. I'm seeing Marty Jannetty of the Rockers and Macho Man Randy Savage, which all of you know, and Dusty Rhodes and all these really big names. And gosh, man, I was such a scaredy cat back then. If there's one, they say, what's one thing you could change if you can go back? Mine is I wish I could have had the balls to just talk to them and be cool with them.
Yeah.
The Big Show freaking slapped me in the face, and I just laughed about it. I wish I could go back and like jump on him afterwards, and just be playful about it. I teach my kids these lessons, don't make those mistakes. Anyways, my first match. My first match couldn't have been against a better opponent. Did you ever watch my show Blueberry Kids when I was making that TV show?
I did.
Do you remember the Gator Crusader?
Yeah.
My first match.
That's how you know that guy?
That's how I know that guy.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dude, but he wasn't the Gator Crusader.
I love that guy so much.
Everyone loves that guy. But, dude, as much as you love him,
Yeah.
he was the funniest, most lovable heel you could find.
Wow.
Oh, my God. People would buy these little, they would call him Oompa Loompa. And, dude, he's short. And you remember Mr. Perfect, the wrestler Mr. Perfect?
Yeah.
Well, my friend was Mr. Pretty Good. And he'd bring out a little step
Is
ladder.
that Paul Orndorff?
No, that was
it's
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful.
No, there's only one Mr. Pretty Good,
Oh.
and that is my boy. And, dude, there was no improvisation in that match. We memorized. I was so nervous, and he was nervous for me. But we memorized move for move for move. And, dude, we went over this match probably 50 times from the moment we talked about it to the drive to the show to being backstage. And a ton of my college friends were there. And because of half the crowd being my college friends, I come out to an instant pop. I'd been waiting for that moment for many years. I dreamed of that moment. And I go out, and Mr. Pretty Good is getting all the heat. He's just getting boozed like crazy. I come in, I do some fancy moves, and Mr. Pretty Good gets angry after he's outside the ring. I'm doing my high-flying stuff. I was really agile back then. Then he comes in, cheats, gets some heat on me. And, dude, before you know it, I'm on the top rope, jumping off, hitting him with my move. 1, 2, 3. Everyone's arms go into the air. I'm hugging people. And I hugged Mr. Pretty Good backstage. And I'll never forget, I got in my car, and I wept like a baby. It could not have been. I remember wrestlers in the back asking me how long I'd been working for it. And I was like, this is my first match. And they're all like, I wish I could have that on my 50th match, kind of thing. Like, it just went so well. It's so much so that we're still friends to this day. And it was in the smallest, crappiest venue. I shit you not, the name of the venue was Joe Bob's. And Joe Bob's was it was an outdoor ring, hard as a rock. Good Lord, that ring was hard. And not a whole lot of teeth in that audience. But boy, oh boy, was it the perfect way for me to start this journey. It was everything I hoped it would be, and I just had such a blast.
Yeah, how old were you when that?
My first match, I want to say, I started wrestling school when I was 18 when I first went to college. I don't remember if it was at the very end of me being 18 or the beginning of me being 19, but it was around that time. I never got over being nervous. I think I was always the most nervous backstage. I don't know if it's because I cared the most or because I was the most soft. Like, I don't know what it was, but holy cow, I put so much pressure on myself.
Do you still get nervous?
Yeah. Not like I used to.
Yeah.
I mean, before it was very visible how people would come up to me saying, you need to chill out. But no, now in my matches, I still get nervous. Probably more so that I could get injured, but no, I can. And what's nice about not being nervous is that I can enjoy myself a little more out there.
Yeah.
I can sit back and like really look out at the audience or look at my kids and be like, this is freaking awesome, which is very fun for me.
That's great. Like, how long did you wrestle consistently?
For a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was 28 was when I moved to New York City.
Okay.
The problem with being a high flyer who wrestles consistently and puts everything he can into the matches is you get hurt a lot. And I had no shortage of concussions, so much so that I started getting and CTE wasn't really known back then. So I would get a concussion and wrestle later that night if there was a battle royal or, just the next day. Happened all the time. And it got so bad to where, like, I'll never forget my friend David Mercury. You met, he was the wrestler who was here. I was working with him, and he kicked me in the chest. I have it on tape, man. And just him kicking me in the chest must have rattled me so much. I got concussed right there.
Oh, wow.
Memory wiped. In fact, dude, it's crazy. I don't know if I told you this. But after that match, I'm backstage, and this guy's talking to me. Oh, when you did this, it was good. But if I were you, I'd work on this. And I'm like slowly kind of coming to, and I notice a snake. And I look and a mustache. And it's Jake the Snake freaking Roberts.
Wow.
And I just look at him. I'm like, wait a minute, Jake? He's like, yeah, you got rattled pretty good out there, brother. And that was me meeting Jake the Snake from a concussion. So when I moved to New York City, I thought to myself I should maybe take a little break and try this new life in New York. I met Lisa, and she knew about the concussions, and she kind of forbade me to wrestle. She didn't want me to get hurt. But you know what happened? I got invited to be a host at Mary Beth's Electric Halloween, and there was a wrestling show there, and I was like, babe, I think I can do this. I'll be okay. And I went out there, and I was like, I'll just try this one more time for my kids. Sure enough, here I am, I think 12, 13 matches later, and it's just been, I'm not wrestling often. I'm not traveling. But more than anything, I'm getting to wrestle in front of my friends. And more importantly, I'm wrestling in front of my kids. And they've taken part in the shows. They've entered the ring with me and flexed with me. And even one match, the referee was knocked out. So Jaden slid in and did an unofficial 1, 2, 3. It's just been memories I don't think they're ever going to forget. And before the shows happen, the kids get in the ring and all the wrestlers love them. So they're showing them moves and making them feel great. It's been really a lot of fun. I used to be very nervous backstage and worried about politics and are they going to push me to win or are they just going to ignore me and I will be booked the next show? Now I'm just like, here I am. Let's put on a show and have my kids have fun. And it's a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now what's, do you remember, let's talk about that first time getting back into the ring. Like, I'm sure it's been, for there to be that much time, from between entrances and exits of the ring.
Time,
like
pounds.
Yeah, well, like it's really, it's different when you're not in your 20s getting knocked around. So like, what was that first experience wrestling, and how did you hook up with the people that you were wrestling with?
I hooked up with them just because they'd been working with Mary Beth forever. So I had Mary Beth reach out to them.
Okay.
I told them who I was trained by. That there's a lot of people who just show up to wrestling shows and say like they can work, and that's a very dangerous thing if you can't. But I showed them my credentials and sent some videos. I was like, all right, we'll put you in a tag match so you don't have to work by yourself. And I knew I couldn't do all the same stuff I used to do. I am not that agile anymore. So, but through my experience podcasting, teaching, public speaking, all the other things you were talking about that, where I use my creativity, I started thinking about, well, I know how to work a crowd. Maybe I'll supplement a lot of those moves for just crowd work, and storytelling in the ring. And so I pick and chose a couple high-flying moves that I thought I might still be able to do and give the image that I can still fly with, by just doing 2 or 3. And sure enough, I had a few friends there. My family was there. It was a small crowd, but they were a lively one. And I pulled off a head scissor from the corner, which I was like, yes, I hit it. Okay. I jumped off the top rope to the outside with a plancha. No injuries there. I hit my moves, and the match it wasn't the greatest match I've ever had, but for a first match in 10 years and being able to do that with my kids and friends, I couldn't have been happier. And boy, things do not feel the same. I remember when I used to bump in the ring at 19, 20, even 25. I'd be like, I could do this all day.
Mm-hmm.
And I never understood it when the veterans would be like, I'm only going to do one bump in this match. I'm like, what, dude? I'll bump all day for you. And now I get it. Now I'm like, if I don't have to bump, that'd be great. In fact, I've had matches since then where I don't have to do a single bump, but make up for it with a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
I've developed this new character in my older age of Mr. Sam, the School of Rock, coming out, slapping slap bracelets on the fans' hands, and just a real rocker teacher, but a good guy. And I've always been a face. Like, I just naturally, I can do heel, and it's fun doing heel, but I'm a much more natural face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I only got a chance to see you wrestle really once at that event you had here.
Were you not at Electric Halloween?
No, I wasn't. I tried to. I think I was there. No, I couldn't make it that year, so I wound up going the next year.
That's right. And I think you actually came the next day, maybe or something.
Yeah, something like that. I wound up missing. It was like super rainy the day that I went to it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just missed you because I had to. What time was your match?
I don't know, dude. It was late, but you know what? I'm not mad at you. I'm really glad you were at the match you were.
I am too. Like it. I've been to one or two other like professional wrestling things. Nothing like WWE or anything.
You've been to
like
some
that.
independent shows?
Yeah. My friend Pat, who's he's a stuntman, actor. He does a lot of motion capture work. He just moved out to Austin a couple of years ago. But when he was living in the Philadelphia area, he was doing some professional wrestling gigs out Belmar area. There's a wrestling school out there. And it's a small place. A lot of dedicated wrestling fans go to it, and it was pretty cool. But like this experience that the wrestlers that you had here were some of the most entertaining individuals that I've ever seen. Like, and that includes like the TV stuff. They're just and the nicest people. Like outside of the wrestling thing. Like I don't know any of their names really, but like there was the guy who had the My Pet Monster.
Oh, you're talking about Vinny Cenzo.
He was fantastic.
He's great, dude.
Super nice guy. We wound up walking to the car when he was with his family. I think walking away from the match, and he was great.
He's a fellow Ninja Turtles fanatic, so we get along just fine.
Oh, I gotta meet this guy like for reals. But yeah, it was the way the kids became part of the show. Like they were excited about it, but the more the event went on, the more they like
they start getting a little more comfortable.
Yeah, they're more like, oh well, that guy's the bad guy. Well, let's gang up on the bad guy, And it was super cool. It was controlled, like, so nobody, like, I almost felt like, oh, one of these wrestlers is going to get very hurt by this gang of kids. But it was like super controlled and super enjoyable, and like my daughter was getting like high fives from wrestlers coming in, and I think it was great that you had a couple of like female wrestlers there too that she could see.
Angel Metro, she's going places. She's fantastic.
Yeah, it was truly a joyous occasion. I'm so glad that I got to see you perform there.
Certain shows where I'm like, gosh, this is the one I wish people who aren't, like, for example, my martial arts instructor, he thought wrestling was the stupidest thing. And after that show, he's like, I'm coming to the next one and the one after that. That was so much fun. Those are the ones that I love people seeing so they can get a glimpse into why I'm so passionate about professional wrestling.
So when you're like, let's talk a little bit about Camp Tuscaloosa
Yeah.
and like things that have come out. Like I met you. I, I don't know if it was like a day before quarantine. I don't know. We had just had the meeting with Sue, and she's like, "You got to talk to my friend Sam," and
We
then
met right by the shed.
yeah, we met right by the shed, and it. I'm so glad that I took up her suggestion to come and meet you because
Oh, come on, dude.
like it's you know it changed the course of the last 5 years of my life. Um, like I've not only relied on you to be a host for our events, but you've been such an excellent sounding board for ideas and a voice of reason when I might be thinking a little bit, I don't know what the hell's going on, so it's been a real privilege to be able to navigate art club with you and to start doing this kind of podcast, where we get to just
We're
talk.
talking about looking back earlier. Gosh, you look back at the things we've accomplished over the. See, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I know this is about me, but let me say something about Don. Don is a rare breed because, for one, Don is someone that I could call or I could talk to, and I can say anything that is true in my life or anything I'm feeling and never feel judged. And when you own a school in a summer camp and you kind of have to you never know, you just kind of want to make sure everyone has a great impression of you. But there's some people you can just let your hair down with. If I had hair, I'd let it down around you, Don, because you're just, you just beam goodness and genuineosity, if that's a word.
It is not.
No, I'm coining it. And for you, and I'm a very motivated guy. Like I want to be doing stuff. I want to be being creative. And boy, have you made a platform for me and a lot of other people to be creative. So it's been really cool having you let me. So one of the first things Don and I did together was a third Thursday live stream. And the reason this was a big deal was this is in the heart of quarantine, so people were missing each other, and we just had this show where a lot of people watched it and enjoyed it, and a lot of really good positive communication. And just from there, dude, we did many other third Thursdays. You rode a bicycle and drew a picture. That was a thing. Art while riding a bike. We did a game show, which, ladies and gentlemen, part 2 of the big draw is coming soon to the Eagle Theater. And I know I'm forgetting a lot of things because we did shit in Smithville. We did stuff everywhere. So it's been fun.
Yeah,
it's been really cool.
But we went off on a tangent, but I really wanted to talk about some of the creative things that you were doing, like with Blueberry Kids, and like that show was great. That show was great.
Shout out to John Bradley. He took the crap I put together and made it beautiful.
Yeah, it was something very special, and the stuff that you do, like the themed days at camp where you dress up like a ninja.
Dude,
and
you should have seen the pumpkin this year, the big inflatable pumpkin. Oh man, I got more honks from the street. Ladies and gentlemen, I go out onto the street and I dance all morning. Sometimes in really hot alien costumes.
Yeah.
Do not tell the campers that I'm the alien. It's a real alien. And that's a big one. Mr. Sam, we know you're the alien. Pirate. I enjoy being the pirate. It's fun, yeah, and that's the cool thing about the special days is that I get to do these things that I know I would have loved when I was a kid. Freaking Ninja Day, come on, man. We started Surprise Party Day, where that's a day kids don't even know is going to come up. They don't know when, but when they're there and they find out they were at camp on the right day, Mr. Softy shows up, and we got a 6-foot tall beach ball, and arcades are all out, and dunk tanks, and it's a good time.
Nice.
So the special days, Lisa and I have gotten to put together some really fun ones. And even more so, what I enjoy more than the special days is the counselor game shows that I get to put together. Counselor Pie Face, the Counselor Elimination Game Show. We took, they were all asking me because I was on Password this year. They said, Sam, could we do Password here at camp? So we did Counselor Password. And I think it's more fun for the counselors even than the campers because they just have such a good time doing it. And then they win $20 to Amazon.
Well, that's awesome.
A little bonus.
So, like, we're coming up on an hour now.
Yeah.
It's been great learning a bunch of stuff that, like, I've known you for 5 years now, and I'm finding out a bunch of stuff for the first time. So
I'm looking forward to the one with you, man. What you guys on the outside don't know is I was feeling a little bummed out today, and I knew this talk with you would give me a little more pep in my step, and I'm right back to happy me. So this was a really good time, man.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk together.
Yeah, we got 30 more seconds till an hour.
Oh, well. What do we do?
I don't know. Preview. What are we going to talk about on the Don Swenson episode?
Oh, who knows? I don't know. Probably about Swedish things. And,
fish?
Yeah, maybe fish? Swedish fish. Oh, I love Swedish fish.
You love Swedish fish too?
I love Swedish fish so much, man. We should get a jar of Swedish fish for the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So we can have them for...
Yeah, we should.
Everything.
At the very least, we need it during the Don Swenson episode.
One final question.
Okay.
For you.
Yeah.
So... is there anything that you've always wanted to do but haven't had the opportunity to yet? Creatively.
Just in general.
Creatively speaking.
Yeah, there's something there's actually a lot of things. I kind of dream big, but there's only so much time in the day. But actually, I'm really excited, ladies and gentlemen, because I've been talking to a good friend of mine, Andy Julia, and he is working on getting me booked. Ooh, I'm getting nervous just thinking about it. I love that feeling, the butterflies, for my first stand-up comedy gig.
Wow.
I've been going over my 5 to maybe 7 minutes over and over in my head, and I think it's kind of funny. I mean, there's only one way to find out, but you know what Andy told me, which boosted me up a little, is he said, Sam, you've already got the stage presence, and that is a huge part of the battle. Now just make the material. So I'm not going to worry about how I am on stage. I'm just going to bring it like I always do. And hopefully these jokes that I'm telling myself on the lawnmower and in the sauna or every chance I get, I got a story that I'm going to tell, and hopefully they find it funny too. So I hope you come too, Don.
I really hope. You got to tell me about that because I will be there, man.
Oh, it's either going to be awesome or I'm going to bomb. But either way, I'll have a story to tell.
Very cool, man. All right, Sam. Well, next time. Till next time.
Till next time. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Don Swenson.